Honoured guests, ladies, gentlemen, children, employees and players of Manchester United, United supporters from across the UK and around the world, and football fans throughout the UK and across the globe. To those of you who are present here outside Old Trafford today, and those who join us via various media outlets, both in the UK and globally, on behalf of the club, I welcome you all to this place, where for many years, the tragic events of the 6th of February 1958 have been remembered. We thank you all for joining us today. I'm Rev John Boyers. I'm honoured to have served this club as their chaplain for over 26 years, since the summer of 1992. Although now retired, I've been asked again to lead the Munich Day memorial event on this, the 67th anniversary of the tragedy. It seems appropriate to recall with appreciation the many people who in the past have contributed to previous remembrance events and who are no longer able to be involved. Particularly, I think of Mike and Elaine and all others involved in Munich 58. Indeed, we value all that many people have done to encourage Munich remembrance near to the Munich clock and plaque here at Old Trafford. And so today, we gather again to recall and reflect. We will remember with solemnity those killed through the tragic accident on that slushy Munich runway on a cold, grey afternoon in 1958. Yes, today is a solemn and serious remembrance of that tragic part of Manchester United's history. But we also want to reflect on what followed, how the club rebuilt itself to achieve European Cup success within 10 years, and how, later, new foundations were built to bring remarkable years of achievement to this club. We will reflect on how vision, energy, commitment, sacrifice, and teamwork transformed this club, your club. We will recall how despair turned to hope, and hope to achievement, and achievement to continuing development, wise and productive development. Out of darkness came light. Out of sorrow came joy. Let's remember that and be encouraged. Now we have several contributors coming up here to talk this afternoon. And our first contributor is Roy Cavanagh, MBE, who is known to many as a writer of books about United, whom he watched in the early 1950s onwards. So Roy, please come up on the platform and speak to us about some of your memories. Roy Cavanagh.
Thank you, Reverend John. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. In 1955, I started watching Manchester United play here. I was 7 years of age. I lived then in Salford by what were the docks, now Media City. There was rationing on till 1954, and I can assure you life was colourless. I then came here to my first match, and Old Trafford became my theatre of colour. There was a pitch of green grass. You didn't have much of that round Salford in those days, I can tell you. The colour of the opposition shirts, and of course the red of United. One had a different jersey though, the goalkeeper, Ray Wood. I knew this was a great team, but he must be different with a different shirt. So Ray Wood became my first hero. What a team they were. Matt Busby's Busby Babes. Ray Wood, my hero in goal. Bill Foulkes, a very steady, dependable man. Roger Byrne, our captain, leader, and the greatest left-back in the world. Eddie Coleman, a genius at 20. Marc Jones, a rock of a centre-half on the pitch, gentle off it. Duncan Edwards, he'd already exceeded the word legend by the age of 20. Johnny Berry, a terrific right-winger. Liam Billy Whelan, the pride of Ireland. Tommy Taylor, the world's greatest centre-forward. Dennis Pilot, who a couple of years later scored 32 league goals, which is still a record for a United player. And finally, David Pegg, a fast winger, beat his man, crossed the ball to a teammate. I don't think that's going to take on, do you? Our first memory of seeing the Busby Babes actually was in a youth match. And it was here on a Saturday morning at 11 o'clock in a quarter-final against Plymouth Argyle. The team managed brilliantly by Jimmy Murphy, who we should never, ever forget as a Manchester United fan. Duncan Edwards was quite phenomenal in that match. United won 9-0, and 3 weeks later, on April the 2nd, 1955, he became the youngest ever England international. I saw the FA Youth Cup final here in 1956 against Chesterfield. Bobby Charlton, number 9, and in goal for Chesterfield, a 16-year-old Sheffield schoolboy called Gordon Banks. 10 years on, they both helped England win the World Cup. I was here when the trophy was presented and won in 1956 and in 1957. But in 1957-58 season, around Christmas, we suffered 2 or 3 bad home defeats, and Matt Busby immediately acted. He went and bought Harry Gregg, who's a legend of this club. He gave Kenny Morgans, Bobby Charlton and Albert Scanlon a first team slot, and we played Luton Town here, you'll not believe this, on Christmas Day in 1957, which was the last time we played on a Christmas Day. A month later, I was at the Ipswich Town FA Cup 4th round here, when 5 players would never play again at Old Trafford. On Saturday the 1st of February, I was among 19,000 at a reserve match here, when another 5 would never play here again, and we mustn't forget Jeff Bent and Jackie Blanchflower. On February the 5th, United won through to the 2nd successive European Cup semi-final. The day after, on February the 6th, normal Thursday for me, but around 4:30, I'd finished doing extra lessons for maths and English, where I was hoping to pass my 11 plus, which I failed. But on the way home, I saw my mates at the corner newsagents, and the billboard hit you, United in plane crash. At 6 o'clock that night, it was the first item on the TV news, and they said there were many fatalities. No social medias in them days. It was the day after, Friday the 7th, when enormity hit home. The headmaster explained it to us all in assembly. And I lived quite close to where Eddie Coleman lived. And I had some souvenirs in my school desk. I can remember picking them up and going to where he lived, knocking on the door and handing them over. Went home for me dinner, and my mother went ballistic. But I was 10. I didn't know about death. I was devastated. It was like the first real death that I knew in my family, and that team felt like my family. My memories of them were always being on the front foot, attacking, playing as a team, working as a team. I just could not go to Old Trafford again until the following September. I was that devastated. They were my team, my life. They were gone forever, but they remembered forever. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much, Roy. In a moment, I will ask 2 members of the club's under-13 academy sides, Josep Camacho Sidos representing the under-13 boys, and Georgie Clough, representing the under-13 girls, to read a poem about the Munich tragedy. Please come up to the platform. Thank you.
In the snow, where hope turned to despair, a team of dreams was left broken there. February skies were heavy with tears, the crash etched grief for countless years.
The Busby babes, so young, so bold, legends in red with hearts of gold, but fate conspired to clip their wings, yet still their spirit forever sings.
Through smoke and wreckage, hearts still cry, yet from the ashes, never say die. The souls of those who fell that day, keep the flag flying, come what may.
With every chant from the Stretford end, we honour the heroes, the ones who defend. For Manchester stands, through hearts may ache, with pride that no disaster can break.
Georgie, Josep, well done both of you. We now come to the wreath laying. Our men's team and women's team managers will lay wreaths. The captains of each of these teams will lay wreaths. Members of the under-13 boys and girls team representing our academy will do the same. And a representative of United fans and Munich 58 will also come up to be part of our wreath laying ceremony. The wreaths are going to be placed on the platform at the front, and those bringing them will come up to the front here. So first of all, could the two managers, Ruben Amorim and Marc Skinner, please come up with your wreath? Thank you. Next, Bruno Fernandes and Mayor Tissier will place their wreath, please. Next, Ellis Mills and Ellie Mae Rayson will place their wreath. And finally, Steve Douglas, representing all United supporters and Munich 58, will place the fourth wreath. We now continue in respectful silence as we listen to the roll of honour, the reading of the names of all lost through that tragic air crash. It will be read by two more of our under-13 Academy scholars, Jaice Dore and Skye Binns. Please come to the platform. I'll say a sentence of introduction, and then you can come and read the roll of honour. Today in our hearts and before God, we remember all those who died because of the Munich tragedy on the 6th of February 1958.
We remember the 8 journalists, Alf Clark, Don Davies, George Follows, Tom Jackson, Archie Ledbrook, Henry Rose, Eric Thompson, and Frank Swift.
We remember those who died: Captain Kenneth Raymond, the co-pilot, Tommy Cable, one of the stewards, and Bella Mitcloff, the travel agent.
Yet as United fans, we particularly remember those who were part of our club staff: Walter Crimmerk, club secretary, Brett Wahali, chef coach, the trainer, Tom Curry, and the Willie Staniff, a close friend and supporter of United.
And especially, perhaps, we remember the 8 Busby babes who so tragically died as a result of the Munich air crash on the 6th February 1958. Jeff Bent, Roger Byrne, Eddie Coleman, Duncan Edwards, Mark Jones, David Pegg, Tommy Taylor, and Liam Billy Whelan.
The Munich tragedy. I can't explain easily tragedy and disaster. But in the Old Testament part of the Bible, there is a book called Ecclesiastes. And within it are some pertinent and helpful words. The race is not to the swift, or the battle to the strong, nor does food come to the wise, or health to the brilliant, or favor to the learned, but time and chance happen to them all. Moreover, no one knows when his hour will come. As a fish might be caught in a net, or birds are taken in a snare, so men are trapped by the evil times that fall unexpectedly upon them. The writer is saying here that we cannot either explain or avoid disaster when it comes. But later on, he says, however long you live, enjoy life and remember your Creator before you get too old, and fear God and keep his commands. That same book from the Old Testament scriptures also tells us something more. There is a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance. And we have gathered here today because for us, this is a time to weep and to mourn. We stand in respectful silence to remember those lost as a result of the Munich air crash at 3:04 on the 6th of February, 1958. Our silence will parallel the silence of thousands who line the streets from Manchester Airport to Old Trafford as the cortege slowly brought back the deceased here to Manchester United. A man that I know said on that day, his mother took him by the hand from their home in Wythenshawe out onto the high street there. And he said, there were thousands of people, but it's not the thousands of people that I remember. It was the silence, the respectful, deep silence. I remember that. We, in deep and respectful silence, will remember them. Let us stand for 1 minute silence here. And we close that silence with some appropriate words which end, "We will remember them." And I hope we can all repeat those 4 words together. On Munich Day each year and through the years, we will remember them. Together we say, "We will remember them." At the start of this memorial event, we spoke of light overcoming darkness and hope overcoming despair. In a moment, Alex Stepney and Jason Leach will pick up that theme as they come to the platform to talk about the rebuilding of this club post-Munich. Jason and Alex, please come up.
Alex, we all know the impact around Manchester and the northwest of England because of what happened in Munich, but maybe you can share some of your memories of how things were and the feelings down in London.
Well, thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. Yeah, I was 15. I was still at school, last year at school. I had a little job delivering parcels from the local grocery store to old age pensioners to earn a bit of pocket money, as it was in those days. And I knocked on this door of this wonderful old gentleman who talked to me about when I was playing for the school team at the time. And he opened the door and he was crying. And I said, "What's the matter?" He said, "Have you not heard?" He said, "The Manchester United plane has crashed. There's only a few survivors." It broke my heart because, for me, down in South London, I'd seen that team at Stamford Bridge on 2 occasions. They were unbelievable. It was an unbelievable team, and I just didn't know where to put myself. He turned around, he just said, "I'm going to listen to the wireless," or the radio it is today, for more news. And I couldn't wait to finish, and of course then get home and listen to the same reports coming through on the radio.
Al, in 1963 you were a young apprentice keeper and you got the chance to go to a cup final. Tell us that story.
Well, funny enough, that year in '63 was a very bad winter and the football closed down for nearly 2 months, and I was playing as an amateur footballer for Tooting and Mitchell, and not many teams, professional teams in those days, had a lot of players. I think 15 was probably the main amount of top players they had, and so many games had to be played before the FA Cup final. And I played a couple of games for Millwall. Funny enough, I represented them just had a good hope and trying, and then at the end of the season, the manager called me and he said, "Come to my office," and I went to his office and he said, "We'd like to give you professional terms to play for Millwall." Well, it was a boyhood dream to become a professional footballer, but I was 20. And I didn't say no, of course. And when I signed, he actually said, "Have you ever been to an FA Cup final?" I said, "No." He said, "Well, there's a 3 and 6 ticket for the final." And what was the final? Manchester United against Leicester. And because I saw Dennis Law and David Hurd scored 2 goals for us to win 3-1 on the day. In my wildest dreams, that was unbelievable. But what was happened 3 years later was more incredible.
Yeah, destiny kind of takes over now. A couple of years later, you end up signing for Manchester United. But when you arrived at the club, did people talk about Munich?
No, nobody ever did. Nobody ever did. I mean, I didn't know I was going to sign for Manchester United. I mean, Tommy Docherty was manager at Chelsea at the time because I was only there for 4 months. Took me to a hotel in London and I said, "What am I doing here?" And he said, "Your seat." And the revolving doors moved and in walked Matt Busby and Jimmy Murphy. And, well, I just could not believe it. And Matt came over to Tommy Docherty. He said, "I need a word with you." He said, "Jimmy, just have a chat with Alex." And I will never, ever forget that husky, Welsh voice of Jimmy Murphy saying the immortal words, "Son, you'll be playing with Bobby Charlton, Dennis Law, George Best, Nobby Stiles, David Hurd, Tony Dunn, and how can you turn that down?"
In '68, Matt and Jimmy's dream came true, and obviously we became the first English team to lift the European Cup. But how did it feel? The emotion, the players who had survived, how did that feel?
Well, it was incredible really, because we beat Real Madrid in the semi-final, and we won 1-0 here. George scored a fantastic goal, and then we went to Madrid, and unbelievable, half time we were 3-1 down, and we hadn't even scored a goal. Our goal was an own goal, and you know it looked in a bad way, but the superb Matt basically said, as the bell went for us to go out for the second half, he said, "You score the next goal, you'll win this game. Remember, it's 3-2 on aggregate." And because David Sadler scored, and then unbelievable when you think about it, Bill Fawkes, our centre half, a survivor, near the end of the game, ran to their penalty area and side-footed the ball in the back of the net from a George Best pass. And unbelievable. Bill Fawkes, a survivor, put us in the final. And because the captain was Bobby Charlton, the other survivor. An incredible moment, not only for us, but for Matt as well, and Jimmy Murphy, and all the supporters of Manchester United.
Alex, thanks for sharing those thoughts.
My pleasure.
What an amazing life there, Alex. Playing with all those stars, and then to top it on Munich Day 2025, to be interviewed by Jason Leach, eh? I'm now going to ask Irene Kings of the Manchester United Foundation, she's a volunteer there, to come to the platform and read a final poem. Thank you, Irene.
Keeping the Flame Alive. February 6, 1958, a date with a twisted fate. In Munich snow, a tragedy struck, sealing fates. The Busby babes, with dreams so bright, fell to earth on that fateful flight. A team of stars, young and keen, pursuing a future yet unseen. The Busby babes were more than just names in the game. They played every game with style and grace, leaving the crowd amazed and in a daze. Under Busby's guidance, they danced on the field, a legacy crafted, a fate they would yield, their dreams. Young hearts of Manchester United Foundation look to them, embracing the spirits of the babes to find a vibrant space. Empowering the youth of Manchester with lessons so clear to strive for their goals and conquer their fear. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Irene. We have two more items before we come towards the conclusion of our gathering today. The first is to invite Pete Martin to the platform to sing The Flowers of Manchester. Thank you, Pete.
Feel free to join in. One cold and bitter Thursday in Munich, Germany. 8 great football stalwarts conceded victory. 8 men will never play again who met destruction there. The flowers of English football, the flowers of Manchester. Matt Busby's boys were flying, returning from Belgrade. This great united family are masters of their trade. The pilot of the aircraft, the skipper, Captain Thane. 3 times they tried to take off, and twice turned back again. The 3rd time down the runway, disaster followed close. There was slush upon the runway and the aircraft never rose. It ploughed into the marshy ground, it broke, it overturned. And 8 of the team were killed as the blazing wreckage burned. Roger Byrne and Tommy Taylor, who were capped for England's side. And Ireland's Billy Wheeler and England's Jeff Van died. Marc Jones and Eddie Coleman and David Pegg also. They all lost their lives as it ploughed on through the snow. Big Duncan he went too with an injury to his frame. Johnny Berry and Jackie Blanchflower will never play again. The great Matt Busby lay there, the father of the team. 3 long months passed by before he saw his team again. The trainer, coach and secretary and a member of the crew. Also 8 sporting journalists who with United flew. And one of them was Big Swifty, who we shall never forget. The finest English keeper that ever graced the net. Oh, England's finest football team, its record truly great. Its proud success is mocked by a cruel turn of fate. 8 men will never play again who met destruction there. The flowers of English football, the flowers of Manchester. Thank you.
Before we conclude our event today, we will remember other members of the United family who have passed on since we last gathered here on Munich Day. So here we remember Terence Tony Young, a local lad from Urmston who made 97 appearances before moving to Charlton Athletic and then joining York City, where he linked up with Wilf McGuinness. We remember Jeff Whitefoot. Jeff was the last surviving member of the 1950s Busby Babes, and at the time of his debut, he was the youngest debutant for the club. He was also part of the 1952 and 1956 title-winning sides. We remember Chaz Banks, MBE, former MUDSA secretary, greatly missed for his valiant work, both here at Old Trafford and nationally, advocating for disability facilities for sports fans. Chaz Banks' lasting work within United is his legacy. We remember Bill Goddard, a long-serving tour guide who also served on match days in a meet and greet role. Bill was gentle and caring, endearing himself to those who knew him through his quiet manner and professionalism. And we think of Kath Phipps, everyone's favourite member of staff. When I was in the process of becoming chaplain here and leaving that role at Watford Football Club, Eddie Plumley, Watford's club secretary, asked, "John, have you met Kath yet?" And I said, "No, I don't think so." He said, "You will. She's wonderful. Pass on my regards." And I did meet Kath. And I found that she was indeed wonderful. And today we miss her. We also remember Dennis Law, king of the Stretford End, a legend who scored 237 goals, won 2 league titles, an FA Cup, the Ballon d'Or, was part of the 1968 European Cup winning squad. But more than his accolades as a footballer, Dennis was kind. He was generous. He was involved in charitable and community work. He was a fine human being, an example for all of us. And most recently, we said goodbye to David Gaskell, the club's youngest ever first-team debutant in 1956 at the age of 16 years and 19 days. David was a goalkeeper who went on to win the 1963 FA Cup and was belatedly awarded league winners' medals for the 1965 and 1967 seasons. And you may remember other people, players, staff, fellow supporters. Let's bow our heads and give thanks for them. Here's a closing prayer. Gracious God, we thank you for the contributions made to the life and history of our club by many people who are no longer with us. And as we remember them, many of us also remember perhaps personal losses, losses of family, of close friends. Lord, help us all to find light in our darkness and hope in our despair. Amen. And a final blessing. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord turn his face towards you and give you his peace. Amen. So thank you all for your preparations and contributions today. Thank you all for being here this afternoon. The club invites you to join us in the International Suite in the Stretford End for tea and for coffee and to share old stories and old memories. We look forward to seeing you there. And for those who can't make it, have a safe journey home. And may God bless you all. Amen.
That's my personal tribute every year. The ball, the scarf, and I like the candle. I like the candle for them as well. I had these balls made a few years ago to commemorate the Munich air disaster. So I had 58 made for obvious reasons. Last year in July, it was my 58th birthday. So I took one of the balls to Munich, and on my 58th birthday, I had it put in the cabinet at the memorial. And I've also got one in Malta at the oldest Manchester United supporters club in the world. They've got one as well.